Hello, those ladies, gents, ladetts, whoever, whatever. Welcome back to another video. As you can see, I have the beautiful Chad joining me once again from Bad Plan Studios. And the main reason I reached out to Chad again is because I've had some pretty big developments in recent times with eyes getting on to End of Ember, and I wanted him to sort of talk us through what that's like as an indie developer, as a small team, and what that means for them.
Hey, Karlec, how you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm breathing. So,
Good. Better than the alternative.
yeah. Who knows these days? The state of the world is not particularly great. But as I said at the start there, you've had quite a few eyes get on the game. You've had a couple things sort of pop off in terms of wish lists and things like that. What's that like for you, and like what led to that and that sort of whole thing?
Yeah, sure. So I'll talk a little bit about what happened and the context a little bit and things like that. We've done so far. We've done a lot of social media. We went through a phase of doing like 6 to 7 posts a week on all platforms, and that was like fine, but really, really hard. Social's really hard, especially organic when you're not putting any
Hmm.
money in. And that was so we've eased off from that a little bit. We're doing more sporadic posts now as well. We've done a lot of, not a lot, but a few face-to-face in real life events. So we did our first one as a studio was AvCon last year. And then we did Sage earlier this year. And we've got a few more coming up. AvCon coming soon, possibly PAX.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting. But one thing we know about marketing, about games marketing, is that in real life events are good for some things, but they're not necessarily great for visibility, for digital
Yeah.
visibility. Because the idea is like, if you've got, say, AvCon, there's what maybe. I don't know what the numbers are. It might be 10 or 15,000 people come through or whatever. Of that, the subset of that is probably maybe 3 to 5,000 come through indie games room. Of that, maybe 1 or 2,000 see your game, which is not bad, right? That's better than
Yeah.
nothing. But you compare that to someone, say you've got a streamer who has 100,000 follows, they
Yeah.
post it, and it instantly gets seen by 50,000 people or 20,000 or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in real life events are really good in terms of production and giving you a deadline. The team comes together. It's like, it's good for your ego, makes you feel good. It's really good for like early adopters and people who are going to become your platform for boosting later.
Hmm.
But in terms of just reach, they're not all that great. So we've been starting to work a lot more on getting into showcases. So online showcases and festivals. And more recently, I've been really reaching out to streamers and platforms and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we had the first one, which was like super exciting. There's a thing called the Horror Games Award. And we love that because it's a horror game and you really want to find the audience that is going to fit your game.
Yeah.
Like, we're not very cozy.
Definitely not.
Or like pixel art or pastel or anything like that. So it was really good. The Horror Games Award said, "Yep, love to have you in the May showcase, the summer showcase." It's obviously summer in the US.
Yeah.
And in the main showcase in October, they do like a Halloween actual awards event. And that's super cool. And then we were in the Frosty Games Fest, which is like an Australian. So word up, Frosty. Those
Yeah.
folks are fantastic. It's a great event. They were kind of like, Australia and New Zealand misses out on the whole Summer Game Fest stuff. The old
Yeah.
E3, not E3. It's kind of like all of the Steam events and all that sort of thing. We get left behind because it's like winter here. So they said, let's create a festival for Australian games.
Yeah.
That's why it's called Frosty. And so we were in that, which is really cool. It turned out that was, I wasn't aware of this, but it was a pretty curated event. They only had 40 or 50 games,
Hmm.
which is like cool, and they kept it to like 45 seconds trailers for most of them. Whereas Horror Games Award had, I think they had 100 or 200 and like trailers of up to 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So it went for 4 hours. And then, other festivals that we haven't been in have like 400 games in them
Yeah.
and stuff. So it's like, it gets just as saturated as whatever. So Frosty was pretty cool because that was, quite focused and quite curated. And then finally, just off the bat, we were in the games to get excited about, which is like a smaller one, but oh no, it's big, maybe smaller reach, but pretty cool as well. But the big thing that really did it for us, and the weekend that was like so exciting was as a part of the Horror Games Award, they have co-streamers. So for any game devs out there, if you are wanting to do marketing and if you're in real life events or online showcases, see if they've got any co-streamers or content creators associated with them. And what that did was that gave me an opportunity to go, oh, hey, streamer, I see that you're a co-streamer for Horror Games Award. Thanks for supporting the event that supports us. That's really valuable. Love your vibe on stream. Would you consider covering our game? You know, and it gives an opening for a conversation, because otherwise you're just cold calling going, me game, you streamer type thing. And that's, you know, like a bit weird and whatever. You've at least got something in common that you can say, hey, we're in this thing together. Like, do you want to whatever?
Yeah, it feels a bit
And then
more
what happened
organic.
was, yeah, you know, it's like it starts a conversation. And I mean, my response rate is still 10 to 15%. You
Yeah.
know, I send out 20 emails and I get 3 or 4 responses, you know, but that's just, it's a numbers game. That's just how it is. Which is why Chris Sikowski says that you need to be contacting 500 streamers in the lead up to your launch of your game. You know, that's just
Yeah.
how it goes. It doesn't mean that you should just like cold call blast everybody. You should try and find people who have a fit, and you should try and
Yeah.
customize your message to them and stuff. But you know, that's what you need to do. So anyway, yeah, I was on the I was on the toilet one day looking at the itch page, and I went, oh, hang on, oh, we haven't, you know, it was the email, oh, we have a new follower on itch, Alpha Beta Gamer. Oh, that's interesting, right? Because I'd messaged them, and I'm like, I don't know if you know Alpha, you probably do. Alpha Beta Gamer, they have like 760,000 follows on YouTube. They're a curator on Steam, like a pretty big following. And what they do is they look at alphas and betas of games. That's it. They don't look at fully released games or whatever. They're like finding the, you know, the indie gold, you know, type.
The
That's
up and
their kind of
comers.
model. Yeah, the up and comers and weird games. They like weird games as well. So it's good for us. So anyway, I was like, oh, go to itch, and I just saw this massive spike on itch, and I'm like, oh, okay, of downloads of the thing. I went, oh, okay, and then I saw there was a Google, you know, like we've got a what do you call it? Like a report, like a trends report. You can just get it to send you an email if something goes on the internet with a name. And I went, oh, Alphabetic, oh, and they reviewed our game. So Alpha Beta Gamer had picked it up. They hadn't responded to my email or whatever. They'd just gone, oh yeah, I've got an itch page. I've got assets. Here's the trailer. Here's everything I need. Oh, we'll have a look at this. And they played it and they reviewed it. They did a written review. Highly recommended, which was great because we can actually say on our Steam page, this game is highly recommended by Alpha Beta Gamer. They did say that there's frame rate issues, but that's understandable because it's a prototype. We know that. We're working on it, sort of thing. And that's fine. But they also did a video as well, like a video playthrough. And that video got like 10,000, 11,000 views and like over 100 comments as well. And that was wild for us. That was so good because that's 10,000 people looking at the thing, at our game, at a playthrough of our game. So we got a massive spike in traffic to our Steam page. We got like, so we were sitting on, at that stage, sitting on about 650 wish lists. And our daily increase was like 1 or 2. And I'm like, oh man, I'm the marketing guy. This is not looking good.
It's like me with my
I need a
subscriber
break.
count. It's like, oh, I wish it would go a little bit quicker.
Yeah, I know, right? And you're like, I need a breakthrough and all that sort of stuff, and you know, I need a spike or something. And it's so hard because it is about numbers, and you know, other people in the team are going, well, the wish list's like, you know, that's your job, sort of thing. I'm like, oh, you know, sort of thing. And like in the one day that Alpha Beta Gamer covered it, we got like 430 wish lists, so like nearly doubled our wish lists in one day. And then the numbers look really weird because it was like, Steam has very, very good analytics, like YouTube. You know, I mean, you look at your YouTube analytics and it tells you the second that people stop watching your video. And yeah, because our daily increase had gone from 1 to 430, like the increase of daily increases was like 35,000%. We're like, oh, that's a good number.
Hopefully it stays that way.
Yeah. So that's what happened. And then How it made us feel, how we vibed with it, or how we responded to it. Like, great, it's wonderful, it's so good. Really, it gave us life, and it really sustained us, and me in particular. I'm like, oh, thank God, I did something that worked.
Yeah.
Like something came off. It wasn't viral, but it was like that. And so what it is a market validation piece.
Yeah.
So again, for any other game devs who are watching, um, if you want lots of people to play, if you want to have a game that lots of people are going to play, and that means like you want to sell lots of copies, or if you want to get an investor or a publisher, maybe a grant, although I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about their priorities, but definitely publishers and investors, what they're looking for is market validation.
Mm.
So people, and we're not necessarily looking for investors or publishers, but we want to make a game that people are going to want to play. So market
Yeah.
validation is important for us. And the reason for that is that the investors, publishers are so risk averse. There's so many games out there for them to choose from. Some people think, oh, you just got to make a really good game and they'll be
Mm.
into it. Yes, it does have to be a really good game, of course. Like that's just not optional anymore. But what they want is market validation. They want,
Mm.
something, the flavor of this. Like our spike wasn't that big. We don't have 100,000 wish lists. It hasn't gone viral. But like we can talk about a spike now, and then we can
Yeah.
talk about what happened in that spike and how that increased our daily increase. And then what worked there, and we'll say we're going to be doing the same sort of thing in future marketing beats to try and get the same sort of action happening.
Yeah.
So you've got a story you can tell about how you're hitting the market, which is like super super important from a business investor publisher relations perspective sort of thing, and pitching and things like that. And then the other thing was that like Dan gets a real buzz out of people loving his stuff, like his
Mm.
art, like people getting a bit shocked or people really getting into it or having fun with the game. He's really driven by that kind of viewer and player response. And then some of the feedback that we got on the video, the Alpha Beta Gamer video, was like perfect, right? There are a number
Mm.
of people who are like, nah, it's too much, whatever. And it's like, yeah, fine, cool. A few quibbles, but there were people saying, oh, this is disgusting. I love it. I've wish listed it.
Yeah.
Take my money now. Or like people going, oh, I really love the art style. And, I'm so into this. Lots of people saying, oh, this is like old school Newgrounds. Yeah, cool. This was like 2010s vibe. Love it,
Mm.
And it was so validating, like market validation, but also creative validation as well, that
Yeah.
we're on the right track. It's a thing that people are into, and it's more than, like Karlec's our biggest fan, but and we got a couple of big fans that come to events and stuff, but it's more than, a couple of people. It's like when it goes to people, when it goes to the internet,
Yeah.
the public, like there's actually some response. There's some signal. There's some response to signal, which is super validating from a creative point of view and makes us go, yeah, we're onto something. Let's keep going. Let's try and make it a thing. So really great overall.
That's about all you can ask for. I was going to
Yeah.
ask as well, like with those reaching out and those numbers getting back, do you find that it feels awkward sending those emails out, or because you've sent so many at this point that it's pretty normal? Because I know, like for me, like I reach out fairly regularly. Like I use a service called Keymailer, which is like a middle
Email.
ground PR guy. Pirate PR is another one I've started using. Which just sort of allows me to connect directly to developers or publishers without having to email them. Because I feel really awkward, even if I'm like
Yeah.
reaching out and just going, "Hey, you guys got a demo available?" Like, even if like, or is it okay that I make a video on a demo? Because some demos, like your prototype, like, oh, this might be an out of date prototype. We've got a new one coming through, just as an example. So I always ask before I make a video, just so I've got the most up to date information. So just in case it's a out of date demo or something like that, I can make a note of that, so people don't sit there and
Yeah.
go, "Oh, this game looks like shit." It's like, well, that's because it's 3 years out of date. They haven't updated the demo, but like it's a solo dev or whatever. But how do you
On
find?
them though, gotta
Yeah.
say.
But
I
how do
mean,
you?
seriously, like
Yeah.
if someone plays out, so we had a similar thing, right? We had someone who just picked up our game and didn't know that you needed a controller, and they were trying to play it with mouse and keyboard, and the controls weren't in with mouse and keyboard, and it was
Mm.
a shitty playthrough. Like they couldn't shoot, and so but they played it for like 13 minutes just rolling around, and like I don't know kind of how it worked, and that's on us
Yeah.
because we put a demo out there And we didn't say this needs a keyboard. We didn't have KBM support in, so that's on us. So I
Mm.
would say for you, Karlec, if someone's got a public demo out and that's all you can find on their public profile, and it's 3 years out of date, then they should update it.
Yeah.
Because people are gonna. You want people playing your thing that's out there, so you've got to make sure it's updated. I'm like, if someone looks at our trailer or someone looks at our press kit and uses those materials or whatever, it's on us to make sure they're up to date or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's that. But then to answer your question, yes, it's very awkward.
Yeah.
And and it's easy to get in your own head about, oh, I'm not getting responses. Heaps of people are ignoring it.
Mm.
And to me, it's wild that devs would not respond to you, to someone who's a creator,
Mm.
and offering to boost the signal of their game. Like, that's frankly shit. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, what are you doing, man? Like, someone's trying to give you free marketing and free visibility, and maybe it's only you know,
Mm.
maybe it's only a dozen people watching this video, or like 50 or 100 or whatever, but that's more than zero. And
Yeah.
you need that, So I think that from that side, that's particularly bad. I get it a bit more on the creator side because they're busy.
Yeah.
They've probably got a lot of games being proposed to them and stuff like that. So yes, it's awkward to reach out like that, but it is something that you get over.
Mm.
But I have to say, creators are lovely. They're
Mm.
beautiful people. Like, honestly, they're so good. They're like, I've done a lot of like cold calling and PR and dealing with people and in organizations and outside of organizations and stuff like that. I'm very used to the fact that people don't respond to you.
Mm.
Even even in your own organization, like in my day job, in your own organization, someone who works in the next office, you ask them a direct question, which is mission critical, they don't respond. It's incredibly common for that to happen. So you got to realize that a cold call is going to have a really low response rate, and that's just how it is. You do get over that a little bit, and it really helps. I've had creators get back to me. I had one get back to me yesterday and say, "Hell yeah, absolutely, I want to do something with you." I'm like, oh, cool, that's
Yeah.
really nice. And you got to focus on that positive response that you get. I had one creator reach out, so lovely, thank you, haunted by Han, because it was like, they said, oh, not really a fit for me at the moment. I'm like, cool, I get that, End of Ember. But thanks so much for reaching out, and put me on your mailing list because I want to know, I want to have the updates. So yeah, that's fine. And let me put you in contact with a couple of my colleagues who might be into your game. And one of them was like, yeah, Binding of Isaac, yeah, I love this, get into it, sort of thing.
Mm.
And I'm like, that was just so lovely that they took the time to respond and say, not for me right now, but I'll help you in this way. And I'm like, that gives us life as well. So so to anyone doing this sort of stuff, like, cold calling is kind of necessary. I find it more productive with creators than PR,
Yeah.
than media outlets, because media outlets are just flooded.
Yeah.
So that's my decision, is basically, if we're going to do PR, we need budget and we need to get
Yeah.
Pirate PR or Indie XP or someone to do the PR outreach for us who already has those relationships. So I'm focusing on building relationships with creators,
More
and
of a
it is a
grassroots
relationship
approach.
game as well. Sorry?
More of a grassroots approach.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit more like that, and also a really relationship-based approach as well.
Yeah.
It's critical that that you look after the relationships that you do have, which is why I'm talking to you again, Carly.
Yeah.
If someone does respond to you, respond back.
Yeah.
Be polite. If there's anything you can do for them, boost their signal or like try and help and stuff like that. You have to do a bit of cold calling, but try and focus on that relationship thing as well, and try and
Mm.
customize your communication for them. So yeah.
Mm. One thing though I do want to quickly touch on, even though I do agree, I think like 99% of creators are wonderful people who are trying to do the right thing and all that. For indie devs out there, don't listen to people who are demanding shit though. Like, that's something
Oh yeah.
I definitely want to make sure is very clear, because I've seen so many creators over the years. Because when I was getting into, as I said, like the key mailer stuff, you'd see people going, "Oh, I just don't get this game. This is shit." It's like, they're not giving it to you because, one, you've got 200 subscribers, you're not a big channel, and you're asking for, Elden Ring as it's launched. Why would they give that to you? Like, you're not your channel doesn't really give that value. Like for indie devs, it's a little bit different because any
Yeah.
press is kind of good press in that sense. But like, yeah, if someone's coming to you demanding a free copy, like, oh, you should give me the game because I have this channel, I would probably tell them to get fucked no matter what, just on principle. That's me. Because I hate demanding people. But if someone comes to you and goes, hey, look, I've got this channel, I really like your game. Is it okay? Maybe we work together. Maybe like I can do a video review. So for like me, what I like to do is a stream of the game and then a video review. Now, due to health reasons, I've had to sort of slow down, but I am changing my content up to do more showcases going forward. Pardon me, sorry.
Yeah.
That will be muted in the thing, but if you're wondering what I'm on about, I burped because I'm a mature adult. But we'll have I'm going to start next month doing these showcases where what I'm going to do is basically take these games that I've streamed, talk about them a little bit, and just give them a little bit more of a signal boost, especially for, these games that, I love, that I think deserve, just a few more eyes. Like something like Cantaloupe Chronicles is a point-and-click game that I've really enjoyed. Rosewater is another point-and-click. I've been really into point-and-clicks of late, and slowly getting back into like my big RPGs and all that sort of stuff. But, games where, as a creator, you can always do more without having to do a lot, is another thing I do want to make a point of. Because again, say you're someone who only streams, cool, no worries. Is there any reason you couldn't do a little compilation video of 4 or 5 different streams that you've done of different games, put them together and just throw it up on YouTube? Maybe it gets 10 views, maybe it gets 1,000, you don't know. I think that's definitely a good way to go about that. But getting back to End of Ember, how would you say you guys are coming along with production? I know it's only been a couple of months since our last chat, but how are things been going? Everything been going pretty smoothly? Has there been any major hiccups?
It's great. Yeah, making games is easy, man. Yeah, it's challenging. It is challenging. We got an event coming up, and so that's always a bit crunchy. It's always a bit gnarly when you get an event coming up and that gives you a deadline. We don't have a super structured production, and I think that's something we probably need to pay a bit more attention to. We've been really indie and do it in our own time and all that sort of stuff. We've had a couple of new people come in to help with programming, which is nice, and we'll announce that soon. They're coming in as part of the team. Um, uh, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back sometimes. But it's really good. Like we are hoping to have a new build on Steam actually. So the plan is that we shift to Steam playtest.
Yep.
For our builds moving forward. So the build that's on itch right now is probably going to stay there, or we might actually pull it and just redirect people to Steam.
Yeah.
And we'll use the Steam playtest function, which is like it's like a halfway to demo, which is halfway to early access, which is halfway to release, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you get a different app ID on Steam, so it's a different like store page.
Yeah.
It's quite a separate store page, but you can test how the game plays on Steam, because Steam does particular stuff to the build to make it playable and to optimize your capacity to update it and things like that. So we're hoping to have that on Steam, so people should just be able to play straight off Steam, off the launcher, which should be good because some people don't want to download EXEs from itch, understandably. But the challenge is that what we've been doing for most of a year is rebuilding the prototype. So Eli's been busily programming away and building systems so that they're a bit more robust, a bit more future-proofed, a bit more modular and just better code base than what Dan did in the prototype, because Dan just spaghetti taped things together, so that means that like progress and like new content is like a little bit limited. But having said that, the new build should have a bunch more material in the introduction, so in the tutorial phase. You actually see Ember go to hell. You see her arrive in hell. You see her interaction with Abe, which is the sentient chainsaw.
Yep.
There's a bit more tutorialization around the twin stick shooty bit, and using bombs. And then you see her in the hub world, and you get a bit of narrative about, about her arriving in hell, and how she ends up going to hell to do the runs.
Mm.
So there's a fair bit of new like tutorialization content there, which is cool. And then there's a bunch of new rooms. So Dan's been making new rooms. The idea is that for the demo there'll be 2 levels and 2 bosses. So boss is a big piece of development that we'll have to work on after AvCon. But there's going to be a human processing level. So the idea is you get to hell, you go through human processing, and that is processing humans and parts of humans. So all factory type stuff. And then the second level will be the personal hells level, which is like what most of the levels you've played through already. So that's like, the dentist in the chair,
Yeah.
and the tryptochondrophobia like stuff, and spiders, and all that sort of stuff. So Dan's building out that content. There's new enemies to come. There should be 1 new enemy happening in the next build. So whole bunch of new enemies, a new boss, those 2 levels separated out. That idea of going to the hub world and then going back to new levels and things like that. So it's coming along in general.
No, that's good to hear. Because like I think getting onto Steam as well is just going to have a bit more visibility. Because like as much as like a lot of people use itch, I think people kind of disregard itch a little too much. I think it still has quite a monstrous player base. It's just, as you said, you've got it when you got to download just exes or like use itch's marketplace. Although it's functional, it's not as neat. It's not as established as something like Steam, unfortunately. But speaking of moving to Steam, I was going to ask, like, with the eventual release, obviously this is quite a ways off, would there be plans to release on multiple storefronts, not including consoles and that, or would you prefer to stick to just one, test the waters, if it's popular enough, maybe then go to other ones, or would you just go stuff it, stick with the big?
That second idea, I hate that idea.
Yeah.
I think it's a losing strategy, because it's like it's like going, I want 100 people to buy this thing. I'm going to ask 1 person, and if they buy it, then I'll ask 10 people. You know what I mean? Like it's like, so my view is like I'm quite. Yeah, with social media, for example, I was like, when we started, I'm like, we're gonna go on all the channels. We're gonna do everything. We're gonna do Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, like all of them, right? All of the main ones, because we want as much reach as possible. And something may go off on one place, and if you're not there, then you're not part of it, And one thing I've discovered is Twitter is really good for connecting with people, like DMing individual one-to-one. So a lot of creators, a lot more creators than you would expect, and some bigger ones have their emails on their YouTube page, but a lot don't, and they'll just have Twitter. But you can DM them on Twitter because they're open to DMs from strangers, sort of thing. So it's interesting. We actually got approached. We know we're getting more visibility because we've been approached by 3 marketing agencies wanting to work with us now, and we get composers a lot, like people who want to do our sound. And we've actually been approached by GOG as well, and they've said, "Hey, it looks like a great fit for our platform. Do you want to talk?" And we're like, "Yeah, sure, we'll talk." I mean, we'll talk to almost anyone. But yes, I do think that going across multiple storefronts as much as possible is necessary and desirable, because you're just opening up your player base. You're just making it more open. And we have had some conversations in the team about multi-platform as well. For me, that stretches to multiple platforms as well, because, for example, I want 1 million Japanese players to play End of Ember. I think it's possible they'll get into it.
Yeah, I can see
I'm not sure. Right. But they're not on Steam. Like, they don't play on PC so much. It's all, heavily PlayStation and Nintendo. So Japanese produced consoles. So it's like, if we don't port to those consoles, then we're not really able to access that market so well. So I'm very much put it out to as many as possible. And to your previous point, you were saying like creators could like do stream and then do clips and put them up on YouTube. I
Mm,
strongly believe in that because there's cross-platform stuff that happens as well.
mm,
So, creators might do streams and they're just on stream and they're just on Twitch and stream. And like, that's fine. But are you announcing that you're streaming on Twitter? Do you have a Blue Sky where you're trying to create community there as well? Do you have a
mm,
Discord that you're bringing people into as well? And obviously, that's more work, and you don't want to do a lot more work for not much return. But for example, my understanding of GOG, I don't know how they work, but my understanding of GOG is that they manage the page, the storefront for you.
yeah.
It's more curated. So I've read people who have applied to go on GOG and been rejected. So it's a good sign that they've come to us,
Yeah.
right? That's what we want. We want people coming to us and saying, "Can we
Mm,
work with you?" I'm like, okay. But apparently, GOG will manage the storefront and all that sort of stuff. And I'm like, why would you not? It's like there will be people who like GOG
mm,
more because of their approach to DRM, for example,
yeah.
or just for whatever reason they're just not on Steam. And it's like, why would you say no? We don't want. No, don't give me that money, please. I don't want that
Yeah.
part of money. I just want the little bit of money that's over here.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty core to me is to try and go, try and make it easy for people to access you.
Yeah.
I
GOG
think
is
yeah,
definitely a lot more curated. And like for anyone who doesn't know, that's Good Old Games. They
yep,
are, in my opinion, the best marketplace, like in terms of business ethics, just in terms of the products as well. Like you might see something like I've been meaning to play the Gabriel Knight point and click series again. So you can get that both on Steam and on GOG. Now, Steam uses DOSBox, which is perfectly fine, runs, but it doesn't scale really well to modern hardware particularly well because it's just a straight emulation. Whereas the GOG version uses Scum VRM, which basically creates a virtual machine to then run it rather than emulating DOS. Which then allows you to run the game at 4K with like proper resolutions and things actually upscale and looks so much nicer. Which is
right,
why I'm a big fan of GOG, and they also have their GOG Galaxy app, which is their PC app, which actually allows you to import all your games from Steam, from Epic, from Ubisoft, all into one launcher, so you don't need to have everything open all the time, which is an
yeah.
absolute godsend, I will say.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, for sure. And like they seem sensible around that. And so for me, from a business perspective, if there is in the world, if there is 100 people who see a game and they see Steam, GOG, and they go, I wouldn't get that on Steam, but I would get it on GOG,
mm,
then that's 100 sales we wouldn't make otherwise. So
yeah,
yes, you absolutely want to do that. You know what I
yeah,
mean? That's
and
that's how it falls for me. And a lot of people feel like, and they're also most people don't know this, but GOG is where CD Projekt Red made their money.
yeah,
Did you know that? Yeah.
yeah,
So they that was their first product, and they went, "Oh, we got heaps of money now. Let's make games." And then The Witcher, and then they made The Witcher and Cyberpunk, and the rest is history, sort of thing.
yeah.
So yeah,
I can't wait for Witcher 4. I need to play through Cyberpunk again. I really loved Cyberpunk. I was one of the very lucky few when that game launched. I didn't run into any bugs other than the minimap screwing up on me
right.
once. Uh,
Right. I played it a bit after it was better, after
yeah,
the big patches happened. I loved it, but for some reason I put it down. And I put it down, it was weird because I put it down after the part that really intrigued me and I really loved, which is when you first learn about the video
oh yeah,
remixes,
yeah, yeah.
and I'm like, this is cool. It reminds me of did you remember an old game called Remember Me? um,
Yes,
published by Capcom. It was
yeah,
Don't Nod, who did other stuff. And my read of that game is that they had this concept of like memory remixing, that you go into
mm,
someone's memory, you remix it like a video, and then you change the narrative based on that. And it was in development hell for ages. And then Capcom came along and said, "Oh, look, slap some combo mechanics, some exploration, some parkour on top of it, and keep those little, 2 or 3 pieces of memory remixing and put it out." And that was how it happened. But
yeah,
that reminded me of that. But for some reason, I just put down Cyberpunk. But I've got a new laptop now, which
yeah,
is like quite good, and so I think I'm gonna get Game Pass
yeah. Get
and
into it.
play Cyberpunk. and and because it's like, yeah, this laptop will run anything now, and yeah, Cyberpunk, Expedition 33, everything that's visually like
Gorgeous.
amazing
Yeah.
that I wouldn't play on Steam Deck or PS5 because
Mm.
some limitations. What about
Yeah.
Switch 2? You getting Switch 2, mate?
If I have the money, I'm pretty broke at the moment. I've got to pay car rego and everything else, which sort of sucks. That shit's expensive, so we'll get that sorted. I've become the middle-aged white man. I've started to get into golf, so
Oh,
yeah. But I picked up golf clubs for $15. I didn't spend a lot of money, but cheap ass.
nice. Oh, that'd be good for your back though. Like
Yeah,
golf's good, good. Yeah,
get
bit of
out.
walking, bit of gentle motion.
Yeah, I'm like, because I've got the golf course right across the road from where I live, so I'm like, you know what, $25 all day, get a couple Ks of walking in. Worst case, they've got like some
Yeah,
nets you can smack the ball into. I'm like, do that, you'll burn some calories. It's better than sitting at
yeah,
the computer all day. But we won't
yeah,
take too much longer. This is something I actually
yeah.
didn't
Cool.
get to ask you in the last time because I completely forgot because I was too focused on the amount of time because I didn't want to take up too much of your time. But if you could experience any game for the first time again, no matter what game it is, what game would you pick
Boom,
and why?
2016.
Doing 2016?
Yeah, yeah. I like. So I've got like. That's how much I like that game.
Yep.
Um, it's my favorite video game of all time, no
Yep.
question. It's like I just love that game so damn much, and I'm like an old school FPS shooter like person. So I played Return to Castle Wolfenstein, the original Doom,
Mm,
Hexen, Rise of the Triad, or that
mm.
whole era. And I dropped off gaming when like COD came in. So I'm not
Yeah.
like that military shooter, multiplayer online type thing. The single player, you versus the demons of hell thing, like really vibes with me personally. But Doom 2016 is the only game I've played that gets my heart pounding,
Yeah.
and still, and it's like it just psychs you up like that. It's like a masterclass in game design because
Mm,
it's like they go, what are we trying to create here? Yeah, there's some retro stuff, but we're trying to create this push forward thing, right? And
mm.
so it's a push forward shooter, right? And it's like the level, especially the gameplay design, the level design, the music, the art, the everything. There's not too
Yeah.
much narrative, right?
Yeah.
Even at the beginning, you got Samuel Hayden talking and he smashes it and gets
Yeah.
his shotgun and goes out, like everything is just like perfect towards this singular experience, which is
Yeah.
adrenaline, hyper, and the execution kills that give you health, all of that. It just gets you so immersed and gets you so into the game.
Mm.
I just love it. So that's the game I would play again for the first time,
Yeah.
no matter what.
2016's been my favorite of the new Doom era, as I would put it. Like
Same.
I like Eternal. Like don't get me wrong, I've beaten
Yeah.
Eternal like probably 3 times, but it felt like, and this is the same problem I have with Dark Ages. It went too narrative heavy, and although it's
Yep.
great because I love a bit of narrative, the whole joy and beauty of the original Doom games was the fact that the story was Doom Marine didn't like orders, got sent to Mars, and then he kills everything because they attack him. And then he comes back to Earth. They killed his rabbit, so he kills Hal. Like that's the story. That's the plot. And I'm like, that's fucking brilliant. Like I
Yeah,
am very
exactly.
much,
It's all I need.
yeah, I'm very much a gameplay over story kind of person. And it's not that you can't have story. By all means, like a good story is a good story. You're not going to top a good, like great gameplay with good story. But if you have 10 out of 10 gameplay and 1 out of 10 story, I'm still going to play the shit out of that game. But if you have 1 out of 10 gameplay, 10 out of 10 story, I'm not going to play it because it's not going to be fun to play. I'm going to watch
Yeah, and I
someone
think a
play
lot.
it because it's like, I want to see
Yeah.
the story, but I'm like, I ain't going through it. That's sort of my problem with like The Last of Us. I just can't play it. There's something about it. My brain doesn't
Oh,
click
I
with
loved
it,
it.
but I'm like,
No, I love that. I thought it was great. I thought there was enough gameplay in there. I'm like you. I'm gameplay heavy, and I should say that there are people who really like narrative and they like
Mm,
visual novels and they like point and click adventure a little bit is
yeah,
a bit like that, and that's fine. It's
yeah.
like you do you, like there's enough of everything for everyone, but for me, I'm like you, really gameplay focused, really gameplay heavy. I thought the narrative in Eternal was too much. I quite liked it in the Dark Ages. I've only done like 6 levels or
Mm,
something of Dark Ages still, so I'm a bit behind there. But like for some reason, I really liked they got the balance right in the
mm,
Dark Ages. It was like just enough narrative, and it was engaging enough, and it really drove the action. For me, it's like
mm,
I'm also like a martial artist and action movie, you know,
yeah,
fan, and like narrative in action movies drives the action, right? It gives you an emotional investment for the action. The two are so closely intertwined. Best example of this is Ip Man. Have you seen
yeah.
that film?
Ip Man is
Yeah, right.
phenomenal.
Man, and the story is like really rich, but it is so connected to the action,
Mm,
and that's what you need, or that's what I need at least. And so I find that happening in Dark Ages a little bit more. I thought Eternal was trying to do too much. Like the cutscenes and the
yeah.
narrative was like, I don't care about all this shit. But then also, I thought that it became a resource management game, and so it would
Mm,
take the fun out of the immersion because I'd approach an encounter and I'd go, oh, do I need health or ammo or armor? And oh, should I burn them and then grenade them and then do this? And I was overthinking it, and
yeah.
it wasn't flowy enough. It wasn't like that stuff wasn't streamlined enough. I know some people love it because it can be more challenging because of that, and they
Mm,
actually maybe they're more Twitch gamers. They they
yeah.
they can process. I'm old, right? They
Yeah.
can process things like a lot quicker, and they get into it. And again, totally fine if you love it, love it. Like whatever, go for
Mm,
it. But then the other thing that really gave me the shits was the platforming stuff. You know that
yeah.
level in Eternal where you've got the lava,
Oh, yeah,
and you
yeah,
you,
yeah.
you got to jump and you got to do a double jump and then a dash and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like this is
Yeah.
not Doom. Like this is a precision platformer in a first person when it's not like the mechanics are not designed for it. I'm not having
Yeah.
fun at all. And it would block you. You had to get through that thing to get to the next arena. I just want to go into an arena and rip and tear.
Yeah.
So that was probably like the worst thing. And then the other thing I try not to be like this, but I'm a little bit dirty on the studio around the treatment of Mick Gordon
Yeah.
for the
No,
OST on
I
the first one.
honestly like Bethesda, and this can go for Ubisoft, this can go for EA, Activision, especially Blizzard, because I have said it ever since the Hearthstone shit, where when China was trying to invade Hong Kong, and a player stood up for Hong Kong. He just said free Hong Kong, and they not only uh, took away the players' winnings from the tournament, they fired the broadcasters who had nothing to do with it, to try and kiss ass. And I have maintained all those companies can suck a dick. Like, absolute shit show. They've lost the idea of what gaming should be. To me, they've gone, it is like, don't get me wrong, it's a product, it's got to make money. You're putting money in, it's an investment, I understand, but it's too businessy. It's too shiny. It's not, like, again, you take like Doom, like original Doom, like when that came out, it's revolutionary, it's gritty, it's different, and they just threw shit at the wall, and somehow Karlec made it work, because he's just a genius, and Romero, like brilliant minds, and this is why, like, to me, I think indie games is really the future of gaming, at least for the next probably decade or so. I think AAA is going to be in a bit of a shrinkflation sort of zone. I think moving into kind of the PS6, Switch 2, or whatever the next Xbox kind of era is going to be. Just, I think there's too many big budgets being thrown around for things that don't need it. And like, because like to me, I look at something like End of Ember. It's like, okay, it starts out as three dudes working out of a garage, just throwing shit at a wall, making something work. And that is, to me, a better experience than a lot of AAA experiences. Um, and like, I think like the best example actually is Pokemon. Like, Pokemon has no reason to be as crap as it has been for so many generations, with the amount of money that series makes. Like, it makes no damn sense. Like, but they're like, oh, we'll make it for 20
the
million.
problem.
You know, it's like, if you gave me $20 million, I'm like, I will make you anything for $20 million, you know? But like,
Yeah, this is the problem though with you. You're right about India. I do think it is the future, and you're right about AAA and all of that. I'm not as dirty on companies, particular companies for particular instances, because I know that their systems. I think a
yeah,
big problem with a lot of AAAs is they've gone public and they're driven by shareholder interest
yeah,
rather than
that's
anything
probably the
else.
better
Even
way to put
and
it.
so they have a really narrow idea of commercial interest, and so they chase live service, and that doesn't work anymore, and then they're trying to find the next thing.
Yeah,
So it's about systems and how they work and things like that. But the problem is that like a lot of people say indies, yeah, but then they'll go and buy the next FIFA again, or
yeah,
they'll go and buy Call of Duty again, and like people go, oh, AAA is crap, but people do buy it, and
yeah,
people do go, oh, Pokemon's crap every time, and then they buy it every time,
yeah.
So that's kind of the thing. So
I think we're in an
to
abusive
really.
relationship with these publishers, to be honest.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, again, then you go, oh well. I mean, I don't know. You just like everyone, everyone's trying to do cool shit.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Like, I
So
appreciate it. Like,
yeah.
if you want to play those games, by all means, play them. Like, you're allowed to. You know, just because I don't like
Yeah.
those companies doesn't mean you can't or anything like that. It's like me with AI. The more time goes by, the more I hate it. For a lot of use
Yeah.
cases, and you know. But if someone has no problem with it, that's your prerogative. You do you. You're not hurting me, so you know I've got no problem with it.
They've just published reports on research, and the clickbaity headline is using AI makes you stupid. Researchers have found.
Yeah, I think the
so
sample
so
size
they've
was
actually
54 people or something though. Like it's like
no, it's reasonably rigorous. I mean, what they're doing is they're looking at critical thinking, and they
yeah,
find that people who use tools to do their critical thinking for them are less able to do critical thinking themselves, which kind of stands to reason. So
yeah,
that is a bit of a problem, like societally. I think in terms of the future of our species and our capacity to address challenges like climate change, that is like a broader issue. But we're getting way off the topic of
yeah,
games right now, and I
yeah.
got to go meet the boys in a minute.
No, that's all good. But we will definitely wrap it up here. I very much appreciate you talking again with me, Chad. We'll probably do this again in a few months or so, maybe after the October stuff happens, and sort
Yes.
of talk about the fallout of that and see how we're going. So,
Yep.
one other thing I wanted to just quickly touch on before we do go, the Mentor Monday stuff, that's all wrapped up now, isn't that correct? Or,
Yeah. That was a series. I had a series of questions that someone asked me. I just published that as a series, and then there's a summary video of all of them put together for like 26 minutes or something on YouTube
hmm,
as well.
yeah,
Oh, that might be my channel though.
yeah.
So
I'll find it and have it linked
yeah,
below.
yeah. Thank you. That'd be good. I appreciate that.
Yeah, just like anyone who's interested getting into game dev, stuff like that, you got any questions, like you go over probably I'd say like a good chunk of just like very common questions that I think you would get asked in your position. And you do a pretty good job of explaining like from your position, especially if you're in Australia, because I think the gaming scene in Australia is, I think, on the verge of a boom. Just from what I'm seeing, there's a lot of really, really cool games that are like just starting to get into production. That I think in the next 4 or 5 years, I think Australia is going to become quite a powerhouse in gaming. Like we've had, don't get me wrong, we've had some incredible games released here. We've had games that are made in New Zealand that we steal, which is the classic Australian way of doing things. But because I think New
French is the
Zealand's,
best Australian game ever made.
yeah, I do think like New Zealand is in a spot where I think their gaming market's a little bit more mature than ours. But I think our governments are starting to realize, oh, this is a massive industry, it's growing, and people are always willing to put money into it. So yeah, I definitely think it's a scene to keep an eye out on. If you're a solo dev, if you have questions or anything, definitely feel free to follow the guys over at Bad Plan Studios. Get in touch with Chad. He's always happy to have a chat. And yeah, any solo devs, if you've got stuff you want to share, by all means, feel free to reach out. If you've got questions or if you want to check out more of End of Ember, join their Discord. I'll have that link down below as well. And go wishlist it. Become a playtester, because we want as many people playtesting to get as much feedback as possible, because we obviously at the end of the day want to see the best possible game. But with
That's
that,
right.
I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay safe out there. Bye.